Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, I'm late. I know I'm late. Supposed to start at 10 o'clock. It's now almost 10:30, but we got in a little late. Plus, the kids, it's Quentin's birthday today, so we had to open some presents with the family, and that's just the way it is. But here we are in the thriving metropolis of Viola, Arkansas, population 225. So we're thrilled to be here. Had a safe trip, had a pleasant trip. But with that being said, let's go ahead and click over here, Murtech on Rumble. Okay, this is my Rumble channel, and this is the video that we're going to be going over today, episode 1788. It says upcoming, but as you know, you are actually watching it, finally. Okay, oh, looky here at all these live chats. Says upcoming, but okay, here we go. We got Debbie BS, Uncloudy, Susie Poll 2016. Thank you very much, folks, for being so patient for me to come in and get this started. All right, let's slide down here and click the Show More button and open up the description box. We have information from Black Conservative Perspective, Adogg, Dr. Steve Turley, and Wendy Bell Radio. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this from Black Conservative Perspective. Woke Chicago mayor panics as Chicago Bears threaten to move to red state, that would be Indiana, over Democrat leadership. Let's see here what they have to say.
Could the Chicago Bears soon be moving to Northwest Indiana? The team wrote an open letter to fans saying that they are expanding their search for a new stadium location because Illinois leaders aren't showing any urgency to help with infrastructure. Our Lauren Victory talked to fans in Hammond.
Indiana Governor Mike Braun is pouncing on this idea. He says, let's get it done. Commuters heading into Chicago from Indiana agree.
I'm very excited about it. I hope that really happens. So go Bears.
I think it'd be great for Northwest Indiana. I think it's been a sort of economically has had less opportunities for stuff like this.
And I think it's a good business move for Chicago Bears. They'll be able to own the stadium. They'll be able to have a larger capacity stadium.
The Bears seem to officially scratch Soldier Field off their list earlier this season. Team president Kevin Warren sent an open letter to ticket holders in September indicating their eyes are only on Arlington Heights, where they own property. Now a new letter from Warren indicates some trouble in the northern Illinois suburb. He says he wants a financial commitment for roads, utilities, and site improvements and needs some concrete details about property taxes. Warren says a lack of urgency from state leaders is forcing the team to look elsewhere, including the Northwest Indiana region. He writes, "This is not about leverage. We spent years trying to build a new home in Cook County." One Indiana resident we spoke with is skeptical this is all a big game.
There's no confidence in what the plan is at all until the Bears get 100% of what they want. Good luck.
Are you tired of hearing the back and forth?
Yeah, I definitely am.
Leaders from Arlington Heights don't seem to be sweating too much. Quote, both the Village and the Chicago Bears remain confident that their Arlington Park property in Arlington Heights is the best option for their new stadium and entertainment district. Their statement goes on to say that the Village does need help from Springfield legislators to keep the team in Illinois.
Boy. So I got to tell you guys, I thought that I was done talking about the woke Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson after he folded to the Chicago City Council when it comes to their budget proposal that ultimately ended up overriding the woke Chicago mayor and his ambitions to, quote unquote, tax the rich. Okay, the City Council said, no, we're not going to tax the rich. We're still going to nickel and dime people, but we're not going to tax the rich with the head tax on businesses that would have essentially run businesses out of Chicago. And the woke mayor folded, right? He says, hey, you know what? I'm not going to sign it, and I'm also not going to veto it. I'm just going to let the new budget that I didn't approve of go into law because he doesn't have any other choice, right? He folded on shutting down the city, and now he's dealing with a new issue, which is that you have a big business, the Chicago Bears, right? They're now basically saying that, hey, we want to leave Chicago.
All right, keep a straight face here. The Bears belong in the city of Chicago. The Chicago Bears belong in the city of Chicago, right? And I've said repeatedly that the door is always open for conversations, and, Kevin Warren did call me yesterday. We didn't get a chance to connect, and I still firmly believe that their best position is in Chicago, and it's evidence. The evidence is clearly speaking for itself. Look, I can't get into the psyche and the motivation of this organization. We're all grateful that, there's a winning team on the field. This weekend obviously is incredibly important, and there's going to be some pretty decent weather for us to be able to, clinch a playoff spot for the first time in a long time. So that's a good thing for our city and the morale of our city, and, as far as what their motivations are, I can't speak to that. And my position has been very clear. You all know that there's not been a politician in this city that has worked as hard as I have to ensure that the Bears have a package that keeps them, quite frankly, at the most unique, special property.
Yeah. So you seen that, you heard that. The woke Chicago mayor, Brandon Johnson, is in full-blown panic because the Chicago Bears are getting serious about leaving. I mean, they basically already decided that, hey, we're not going to stay in Chicago. We might go to Arlington. But now is at the point where Democrats are essentially not playing ball to the point where they're like, you know what, we might just go to a red state. We might just go to Indiana. Now, why is it that the Chicago Bears are leaving Chicago? Well, the reason why they're leaving Chicago is for the same reason that most businesses are leaving Chicago, is that it's not a very business-friendly environment. When you think about crime, when you think about property taxes, when you think about just the general business environment, it's just not very good. Okay, again, you have a mayor who openly wanted to tax companies for simply hiring folks, right? He wanted to tax hiring. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to tax growth. That's what he wanted to do. And it's like, yeah, who wants to be in a city like that run by a lunatic like Brandon Johnson, a socialist? And at this point, Democrats can't really provide the business environment certainty that the Chicago Bears are looking for, right? They're looking for a new stadium, right? Soldier Field is an old stadium. They want a dome stadium. They want to be able to attract a Super Bowl, right? They're trying to do business, right? That's what they want to do. They want to grow. They want to expand revenue, right? They want to make some money. And they're like, with these socialists and these Democrats, it's hard to make money. It's hard to grow. It's hard to provide more jobs. It's hard to provide more opportunities when you have socialists and Democrats running everything. So, we might want to go to a state like Indiana where you have Republicans running stuff. And, Republicans seem to be more business friendly. They seem to be more open to growth, to jobs, to the vision, right, of having a Super Bowl being held at the Chicago Bears Stadium. And this is why they're now saying, hey, you know what? We're considering Indiana. And again, that has opened up the door for the Chicago Bears to move to Northwest Indiana, Gary, which is not that far away from Chicago, to be honest with you. But the fact that the Chicago Bears would not be in Chicago anymore, it wouldn't be in the blue state of Illinois, is a devastating blow, right? Or potentially a devastating blow to Democrats. But again, I'm not surprised by this because, again, no business wants to be in a Democrat state. They don't want to be in a Democrat city. They're not very good to do business in, right? You can't do business with a socialist. They don't understand. So, look, this is just part of the reason why I say that in the future, red states are going to be popping, right? Red states is going to be where it's at, right? Like all of the stuff, all of the innovation, all of, tech growth, all of the job growth, like all of the economic growth in this country is going to be in red states. In the next 20 years, our country is going to think a lot differently about which states are the most productive, right? And which states are not.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. It's pretty much talking the same thing for the rest of the video. But it's amazing how these Democrat states are just killing themselves. It's unbelievable. Let me click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Black Conservative Perspective. I am sharing, I am following the channel. I've given them a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here and let me open up the description box again. Okay, and see what the real Adogg has to say about our OMG, Lord, please no. You won't believe what just shockingly happened to Trump on Christmas. Okay. Well, let's check this out and see what's going on.
But let's go ahead and dive straight into it. Now, before I want y'all to see this right here by Nick Soda say, Merry Christmas from MAGA Claus. 20 million illegals made the naughty list this year. And instead of getting coal in their stockings, they're on track for deportation. And this right here is what President Trump just posted. And this post right here alone is pissing off Democrats as we speak. Oh, why is Donald Trump putting up gifts? Why is he posting? Why is he doing this? They always worried about what President Trump is doing, but this is what President Trump posted, and they are pissed off. And this was just one of the little clips that, little gifts that President Trump posted before he got started on Gavin Newsom. Now, before we move forward, I want everybody to see this right here. Not only that, this is what President Trump just dropped on Christmas Day as well. And you can see by 0 hour, he said, holy blank, Trump has video of them stealing votes. And President Trump is not letting this 2020 election result stuff, just go away. He's been talking about this for the longest, and now he shows proof on Christmas Day. And then I see that some people in the comment section didn't know about this video. They ain't never seen it. So check this out. You can see right here, it don't have any audio, but I guess it just shows that they stealing votes. You see how she just grabbed it and I think she's going to get up or something like that. And this is what they do at all these elections. The reason why President Trump, is not going to let stuff like this go, because they will continue to do it. Let's look at this again. So they turning around, they looking like she's going to grab something off the table. Insane. Boy. Man, that right there is insane. But let's carry on. So President Trump posted this right here on Truth Social. You see, if I say Donald J. Trump. And then you're going to say, holy smokes, turns out the corruption in Gavin Newsom's California now dwarfs what we've seen in Tim Walz's Minnesota. The U.S. attorney just dropped a stunner and vowed more investigation after billions vanished inside a single county. Read that again. $2.3 billion sent to Los Angeles County over 4 years is simply gone. No records, no answers. That's $2.3 billion that could have cleaned up streets, built housing, and rebuilt neighborhoods like Venice Beach, where even $1 million homeowners are scared to walk their dogs. This probe already produced 2 indictments, and U.S. Attorney Bill Essayli says many more are coming. Taxpayers handed over tens, maybe hundreds of millions to fight homelessness, and insiders just stole it. Unreal. And it's likely went on for years because no one bothered to look until now. That's the reason why you see how Gavin Newsom been coming out, trying to go against President Trump, trying to stop President Trump in his tracks, because he don't want the fraud to come out, because he know that President Trump and the DOJ is going to find it. He knows that. And you see the reason why Gavin Newsom been acting the way he's been acting, pretty much being against everything President Trump been saying and what he's been doing. It's a oversight is finally back. The election mattered. Power changed minds, and independent federal prosecutors are digging in. No protection, no sacred cows, no excuses. Anyone who illegally touched homelessness money will be tracked down and prosecuted no matter how high up they are. Follow the money, indict the thieves, shut down the homelessness industrial complex. And you can see all these clips is just President Trump over the last, 15, 16 hours. He just been posting. And especially, like I said, about Gavin Newsom, and he just didn't stop. President Trump has been on a freaking tear. He's just been on a tear. And you saw here's a governor of California, Blas Phillips, 66 after burning $3 billion to leave California. So, like I said, President Trump just been on a tear, and you can see right here by Eric Daugherty. Pretty much say Gavin Newsom stole $76 billion or more from taxpayers, and not a single Democrat is acknowledging it. California is the fraud capital of America. He wants to bring this to the White House. Slithering Gavin needs to be banished from public office. And now we're saying that it seems like Gavin Newsom is going to try to run for president. There's no way he's going to beat J.D. Vance. It's just not going to. This man cannot run California. What makes you think he can run the United States? You think Gavin Newsom can run the United States of America, but he can't run he can't even run the state of California. He can't run that. So there's no way that he's going to be able to run the United States. I'm telling you, it's going to probably be worse than Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
I'm in downtown LA, Skid Row, and I want to point out a few things that's gone on here in the past few years. In 2023, Gavin Newsom set aside $750 million to build tiny homes for people just like this that are surrounding by me. Somehow that money is gone. In 2019, they set aside $24 billion to go towards the homeless. Somehow that money is gone. It's unaccounted for. I want to talk about a few politicians from here. One is Nancy Pelosi. She's been serving these people since 2007. Her net worth is over 120 million. Another person here, Maxine Waters, she's been serving the people here in California since 1990. Her net worth is over $10 million. And Gavin Newsom knows what his net worth is, but we know he is building a $9 million home in San Francisco, California. There are leaders, the leaders of California, they failed these people here in Los Angeles and in California. California has actually been one of the highest states in America that people have fled from. Over 66 million people have left California in the last few years. And yet Gavin Newsom, he's out there holding a podcast when he should be working on his state. He might be making a run for it in 2028. And I hope people remember this that's behind me.
Molly fraud scheme uncovered in Minnesota was bad. It was, but the fraud uncovered in California, massive, multiple times bigger. You ready for this? We're talking $285 billion of fraud, and that's just the misuse of COVID-19 funds. I've got your basics. The California State Auditor, yes, we have one, just released a report last week that basically says Governor Newsom has plummeted our beautiful state into financial ruin. Now, we all knew this, and amidst calls upon calls for an audit and some accountability, it's now been confirmed and comes with receipts. Don't forget, Gavin Newsom took office in 2019 when California was enjoying upwards of a $30 billion surplus in the budget. And today, 5 short years later, a deficit of $18 billion. The state auditor was so horrified by the financial condition of the state with the largest economy in the U.S. and also 4th largest in the world, he had to assign the rare high-risk designation to these agencies, the Department of Social Services, for miscalculating the CalFresh benefits program so disastrously, it will now cost California $2.5 billion just to maintain. The audit called the miscalculation overpayment fraud. The report goes on to discuss 7 existing high-risk state agencies and statewide issues, including the Employment Development Department, state mismanagement of federal COVID-19 funds, states' financial reporting and accountability, info security, the Department of Technology and of Healthcare Services, and of course, water infrastructure and availability. You think? So the EDD's busted for improper and fraudulent payments. Department of Finance is supposed to be the governor's fiscal policy advisor. They work just for the governor, so this is all their territory here. All of their reports were outrageously late. And then there was that whole COVID-19 funding fraud mess. California got $285 billion and only granted $37 billion, or 13%. This office then performed 11 audits to figure out where and how the money was spent. They then had to make 85 recommendations. Department of Healthcare Services blew $4 billion in questionable Medi-Cal payments. And in a state that's home to Silicon Valley, Department of Technology is high risk due to info security being, well, really insecure. And water. Surprise, surprise, the Department of Water Resources and the Governor's Office of Emergency Services failed epically. No water, zero maintenance. Oh, and 49 dams rated as posing extremely high hazards. Wondering where the homelessness ranks? Well, the auditor writes, hey, California, I lit you up on this in last year's report. And also, we're still waiting for you to provide that data on where that $26 billion went. Meanwhile, homelessness continues to explode statewide. And your bonus tidbit. Newsom gives insane pensions to his buddies, so liberally and outrageously that California pension system is $1 trillion short. So congratulations, Newsom. You destroyed California in record time. And while you pop off in front of the camera about what a great job you're doing, the numbers don't lie. That's your thing.
So it is just crazy. Then we're here by Eric Dalton. He said, holy crap, new reports allege up to $76.5 billion. Let me go back down. Take that off. Up to $76.5 billion or more in fraudulent spending in California. This makes Minnesota look like child's play, and more is going to come out. It said Representative Kory is confirming slithering Gavin Newsom, California is the fraud capital of America. Exactly what President Trump said. This later report was issued by the state auditor, and that there's nonpartisan position. That state auditor now puts 8 state agencies on the high-risk list of agencies to watch out for things like fraud and mismanagement as well as waste. Here's a look at that 92-page report newly added to the high-risk list as California Food Stamp Program. If the state doesn't get the improper payments under control, it could cost an extra $2.5 billion. Also, on there is the Department of Finance, which was tasked with giving out COVID release funds. Critics say $32 billion of that was taken by fraudsters. So you can see where you say California is crooked. Now you can hear them pretty much saying this in their own words.
California Congressman Kevin Kiley, he is sounding the alarm in his home state, saying under Governor Gavin Newsom's leadership, it has become the, quote, fraud capital of America.
Yep.
And we have team coverage. Our national correspondent, Alana Austin, is on Capitol Hill with more on the investigations into Tim Walz. But we start with correspondent Heather Myers, who has more on what is going on in California. A rainy day out there on the West Coast. Heather, what can you tell us?
Well, good afternoon to you, Katrina and Andrew. This latest report was issued by the state auditor, and that's a nonpartisan position. That state auditor now puts 8 state agencies on the high-risk list of agencies to watch out for things like fraud and mismanagement as well as waste. Here's a look at that 92-page report. Newly added to the high-risk list is California's food stamp program. If the state doesn't get the improper payments under control, it could cost an extra $2.5 billion. Also on there is the Department of Finance, which was tasked with giving out COVID relief funds. Critics say $32 billion of that was taken by fraudsters. Then there are infrastructure issues like California's deteriorating dams and also the high-speed train that's already cost taxpayers $18 billion without a single section of track complete. Other reports cite $24 billion spent on the homeless issue that critics claim the state lost track of. More recently, there's a report that says California cell phone users paid a surcharge for years to upgrade the state's 911 system. Here's Congressman Kevin Kiley talking about what happened to that plan.
That after spending $650 million on that system, the state is totally scrapping it and starting over, completely wasted the money because the technology doesn't work. Mind you, we are very close to Silicon Valley in Sacramento, and yet the government can't figure out how to make basic technology perform.
Wow. And then you got somebody like slithering Gavin Newsom trying to become the president of the United States. This guy right here is a slithering snake. A slithering snake, a liar. The reason why President Trump called him Gavin Newsom. That's what he act like. And you think that he up here trying to come, look at this, say, what? My reaction? Exactly. Why is it only blue states? It's the Democrat way. Of course, you're going to have some people down below in the comment section, pretty much trying to say, trying to take up for Gavin Newsom, and which is not going to work. So if you realize, and you see the reason why these Democrats been fighting so much for Tim Walz, you see what's going on in Minnesota, all the scam and fraud. We found out that over 400 employees came out against Tim Walz, pretty much told him ahead of time the fraud that was going on. He told them to keep quiet, to shut up, not say anything. Now, he didn't got busted. And so he could be called in for questioning is what I'm hearing. Ilhan Omar. It's funny that she'll go on CNN, CBS, but they never ask her, hey, Ilhan Omar, how did you come in, Congress with negative $64,000 and now over a course of 4 years, you're worth $30 million? They never ask her that.
Okay. It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing. She doesn't seem to go on any of the conservative channels like maybe Newsmax or One America News Network. It's amazing. And it makes you wonder, after these reports, why reputable businesses like maybe the Chicago Bears and Elon Musk's companies are moving out of these blue states and moving into red states. It's baffling to me. And the Democrats just don't seem to get it. They think they're being picked on. Okay, or the people are just being racist. All right. As you can see, this video does come from Adogg. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here and see what Dr. Steve Turley has to say about Mamdani panics after huge companies leave New York. Amazing. After huge companies leave New York. All right, well, let's check it out.
A ghost town, and that's not even remotely an exaggeration. In the past 6 months, one Fortune 500 company after another has packed up, left town, and headed south. JP Morgan Chase now has more employees in Texas than in Manhattan. But here's what's really terrifying to people in City Hall. This isn't about a few companies. This is about the entire financial ecosystem abandoning ship, and it's all happening even before their ultra-woke socialist mayor takes office. Hey, gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor. I hope you're having a wonderful week in the lead up to Christmas. It's so exciting, and I've got a last-minute Christmas idea for you. Take a guess at what this is. The beauty. You can keep like creators. Amazing. Now, market family stores or entire exits. Never before. While well-known titans like Tesla, Chevron, Oracle, and Charles Schwab have all left the ultra-blue state of California, that's nothing compared to what's happening in New York. Since 2005, New York has gone from hosting 125 Fortune 500 companies to hosting just 50 today. New York has lost an astonishing 60% of its Fortune 500 companies in just the last 2 decades. Meanwhile, Texas now has 54 Fortune 500 companies, and that number is climbing. Florida has 22, and as a result, the financial services sector, the lifeblood of New York's economy, is hemorrhaging jobs. In the first half of this year alone, from January to August, the financial services sector lost 8,400 jobs. In that same time frame last year, it gained 6,400. So that's a 15,000 job swing in the wrong direction. JP Morgan Chase employs nearly 32,000 people in Texas as compared to 24,000 in New York. Let that sink in. The company that defines Wall Street has more people in Texas than in Manhattan. But what makes all of this even more astonishing is that this Democrat-induced disaster was happening before New Yorkers voted in Zoran Mamdani this past November. Mamdani, of course, ran on a Democratic socialist platform promising to raise taxes on corporations and wealthy New Yorkers. And so, since November, the corporate exodus that's been devastating New York for the last 2 decades has only accelerated. It's being reported that relocation attorneys in the state of Florida are reporting an unprecedented surge in inquiries. Corporate filings data obtained by Florida news outlets revealed that multiple New York companies filed relocation paperwork in just the weeks following Mamdani's election. In fact, they're calling it the Mamdani migration. It's an unprecedented number of refugees, both residents and businesses, and they are officially leaving the state and they are not coming back. This isn't about culture. It's not about geography anymore. It ain't about weather. It's about money. Bottom line, basic, brutal economics. Now, if you don't know, New York's top personal income tax rate is 10.9%. It's the third highest in the nation. But it's even worse if you live in the city. There, you're going to pay an additional 3.9% New York City taxes. That means a high earner pays nearly 15% of their income to the state and to the city. That's on top of federal income tax. A person earning $200,000 per year pays approximately $13,000 more in taxes to New York than they would in Florida. That's $13,000 annually that could be reinvested, saved, or spent in the economy, except it's all going to Albany and City Hall. For businesses, it's even starker. A company with $1 million in profits faces a corporate tax rate of 6.5% in New York, sometimes higher with additional business taxes. In Florida, the corporate tax rate is 5.5% with zero state income tax. According to analyses, a firm moving from Manhattan to Boca Raton could save approximately $7.5 million annually on taxes, rent, and labor costs, a 22.5% reduction. And Wall Street professionals are acutely aware of this. Here's what's already keeping the mayor-elect awake at night, all right? Every company that leaves New York City, everyone, takes what's called a multiplier effect with it. So JP Morgan's 32,000 employees in Texas, they don't just reduce Manhattan's direct tax base. Those 32,000 workers, they're not eating lunch at Manhattan restaurants. They're not paying rent on Manhattan apartments, right? They're not shopping at Manhattan stores. They're not using Manhattan's subway system. And as a result, commercial real estate in New York is collapsing. Manhattan office vacancy rates have been climbing for years, and the exodus is accelerating that decline. Lower occupancy means lower property tax revenue. Exactly what the city needs more of, especially if Mamdani is going to keep all them promises. But because corporations and wealthy individuals are leaving, the ripple effects are being felt everywhere. Service providers from law firms, consultancies, tech vendors, accounting firms, they're all facing reduced demand. They're all either going to have to downsize or inevitably they're going to follow their clients south. And as a result, the economic doom loop only intensifies. Now, New York officials have been panicking over this, even before Mamdani. They've been rolling out incentives, tax breaks, subsidized rent, streamlined permits, but none of it is working. Executives view these as, frankly, Band-Aids on a structural wound. The real issue isn't a lack of incentives. It's the overall business climate. It's horrible. It's the fact that you now have a radical socialist mayor-elect who claims that businesses and billionaires are the real enemy. They're the real criminals, and he promises to punish them. Why on earth would you stick around for that? And Governor Greg Abbott of Texas, he ain't helping New York's cause. Just a couple of months back, he literally rang the closing bell at the New York Stock Exchange to celebrate Texas's zero personal and corporate income tax rates and reasonable and predictable regulatory environment, as they call it. New York officials, Governor Hochul, actually doubled down. They remained defiant. They said, we're not taking business advice from Greg Abbott. Well, okay, but the joke's on them. That defiance might have played well at a far-left political rally, but every CEO watching that exchange got the message. New York is hostile to business, while Texas openly welcomes it with open arms. Bottom line, this is beyond politics now. This is economic triage. New York lost its relevance, its relative dominance decades ago. But for years, the city limped on, sustained by Wall Street wealth. That era is over. Between 2017 and 2022 alone, 125,000 New Yorkers moved to Florida, taking $9.2 billion in annual income with them. And with the Mamdani migration only getting started, that exodus is only going to get worse. The question is no longer whether New York will decline. The question is how fast and whether that decline becomes irreversible. Until then, the next chapter of New York's economic story is certainly being written, but not in New York. It's being written in Texas and Florida and red states throughout the nation. And unfortunately for Mamdani, those states are winning. And they're winning big. Do you want?
All right, there you have it, folks. Amazing, isn't it? You would think the Democrats would step back and say, it seems like what we're doing doesn't seem to be working. No, they freaking double down. Okay? They raise taxes and people, then people start moving out. What do? They raise taxes more to make it non-incentivized to come into that state. It's freaking amazing. So then what do? They bring in illegals and pay for their housing, pay for their food, pay for their education, pay for their health care, which causes costs to go up. And the actual people that are working are getting crumbled. The actual citizens, while they're pandering to people that come into this country illegally. All right. The only problem I have is for some reason they're not destroying themselves fast enough. Maybe it's because of some of the corruption and graft in elections around here. I don't know. Let me click on the Rumble link and show you this video. Does come from Dr. Steve Turley. I am following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here and slide back down again and see what Wendy Bell has to say. Now, I left this morning, actually before Wendy Bell started her program, so I'm going to have to key this up for you past her Pledge of Allegiance. There we go, see it. So I've got to get it up here. It's about the 8.5 minute mark. Okay, let's see what we got going here.
With liberty and justice.
There we go. Hey,
for all.
Good job.
Amen.
Thank you. Enjoy.
You know, I will say this. Wonderful Christmas. Great time with the boys. Great time with the extended family. One of the sweetest things that happened yesterday is that my sons all spent about a half of an hour on the phone with my dad. This is his second Christmas since my mom passed. And the boys on their own passed the phone around, and each of them talked to him for half of an hour. He was on the phone with my children for 2.5 hours, and I was joyful. And Ryan handed the phone back to me after all of them had had their time. And it was FaceTime. And my dad and I looked at each other's eyes, and he didn't even say anything. Just kind of started to cry. And I'm like, I hear you, Pop. It's all that matters. Merry Christmas. It's not hard, right? This isn't hard. What we talk about on this show is disappointing. It's frustrating. It's beyond that. That's like such a nice word. I want to scream. I want to grab people who have stolen so much from us. And money is one thing, but it's your peace of mind. It's your joy, your financial security, your optimism. I mean, think about where we were just a year ago. Coming off of the worst 4 years in my lifetime. I'm 55, right? The worst. In 1 year, this president has changed so much, and something happened last night that I'm sure ISIS in Nigeria was not banking on. And that is deadly strikes, U.S. strikes against the murder, the slaughter of innocent people. Moderate Muslims, but a hell of a lot of Christians. You guys, what we're going through in this country feels like a political battle. It feels like Republicans versus Democrats. It's so much bigger than that. This isn't a race war. This isn't a culture war. This isn't a proxy war, a cyber war. It is spiritual. It is a spiritual war. It is a war between good and evil. I believe that 100%. Now, I don't know in what form the devil comes to you and says to you, I have this delicious apple. I'd like you to taste it. That some people do and some people don't. I don't know why. I don't know why some of us aren't necessarily cajoled by the promises of darkness. But a lot of people are. And it's so damn disappointing to see people here in our country endlessly steal and grift and lie, manipulate, propagandize, point fingers, slow down progress, put you on that hamster wheel of mediocrity like you're running through oatmeal, all the while as they get rich. Is there no conscience? Like, at what point do you look in the mirror and you realize that you're dark? And where you go isn't where you want to go because you made a choice. I believe that. President Trump last night ordering the strike. The attack coming 1 month after President Trump ordered the Defense Department to prepare to intervene militarily in Nigeria to protect Christians from Islamic militants. Look, he tells you exactly where he's going. He tells you what he wants to do. Can the people just stop dying? Can we end the killing? Can we stop? Is that possible? And he warns the people, ISIS, specifically in Nigeria, I see you. It ends or we make it end. And that process started last night. The U.S. launching a number of strikes against the Islamic State, northwestern Nigeria. This coming to you from the New York Times, which is by no means a Trump-supporting newspaper. President Trump announced Thursday the latest American military campaign against a non-state adversary, in this case Islamic jihadis, whom the president asserts have been slaughtering Christians. Now, that is a factual statement from the New York Times. But if the New York Times did even a modicum of research, they would even find some things from a couple years ago, when in 2023 at this time, there were already 52,000 people killed in just 14 years in Nigeria. And this president got on Truth Social and he said, look, this is going to end. No more murdering of Christians or whomever else. It stops. And it didn't stop. And so he bombed them. Peace through strength. This is such an odd thing for America, who is used to 4 years of Weekend at Bernie's, where you saw an obviously feeble and demented old man pretend to be in any semblance of charge, who was on vacation 40% of his presidency, while basically the world was set on fire. Because when you don't have a strong United States and you don't have a leader, instead you have a sewer of rats and snakes and scum. It's amazing what people try to get away with. It's odd to wake up and to realize that all of a sudden there is a leader, a strong leader, a leader who will not hesitate to do what he thinks is right, not just for the United States, but for the planet. You guys, we talked about it last week when the High Court dropped down this verdict, essentially their ruling, if you will, that the president cannot essentially do to Chicago what he wants, and that is to clean it up. That is to send the National Guard. That is to make sense of the chaos, to reel in the criminal illegal aliens who are terrorizing one of America's once beautiful cities, where almost 400 people have been killed so far this year. High Court says you can't send in the Guard. If you're unable to enforce the law with regular forces, that's the only time you can send in the National Guard. What are regular forces, ladies and gentlemen? Do you know what that is? That would be your military. That would be your what? 82nd Airborne, your Marine Corps, your 101st Airborne. The High Court gave President Trump an option that I'm sure he heard loud and clear, as J.B. Pritzker and Brandon Johnson in Chicago and across Illinois celebrated the High Court putting the squeeze on this president, doing what he needs to. Peace through strength. I want the killings to end. I bet you we see him send in the military. I bet you see something that you could not even fathom. And you know what's going to happen? It's going to end the chaos and the madness and the fear and the murder and the carjackings and the drugs and the overdoses. All of it. The High Court gave the president that roadmap. I'm going to say one of the greatest blessings this holiday season is to have a leader you can believe in, whose voice, if you listen to, tells you everything, who put out years before he even was reelected for the third time his agenda, who all the left and the deep state can do is lie about, concoct odd stories about, lose their minds over, and try to stop what you and I voted for. This is just the end of year number 1. Can you imagine the next 3? This is a spiritual war. Good versus evil. Who do you want to win? When we come back on the Wendy Bell radio program. The Trump administration marking a significant milestone as we talk about cleaning up possibly Chicago. A monster drop in America's murder rate. Now that's called winning. Next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
All right, there we go. We'll be coming back here about the 23-minute mark.
Not dying anymore.
Here we go. 22:20.
Welcome back to the Wendy Bell radio program. You know, I think that most Americans are almost somewhat shell-shocked. We're not used to progress, right? We're not used to somebody coming out and saying, hey, this is who I am. This is what I believe in. This is what I'm going to run on. These are my pledges to you. These are my objectives. And if you vote for me, I will be your voice. I will be your champion. I will restore the United States of America to the glory, to the honor, to the envy of the world as it should be. And I believed it, right? After years of being lied to by Republicans and Democrats. And then you see it actually happen. And you're almost like that kicked dog where you're like, I'm used to getting hurt. I'm not used to you rubbing my belly, right? This is what Donald Trump is doing. And the people he has selected to execute his directives, if he is America's CEO, he's got a lot of great vice presidents. He's got a lot of great corporate executives helping him. U.S. murders on pace for the largest one-year drop on record. That's not from some, right? That's not the New York Post. That's not the Washington Times, or the Washington Examiner, or any other right-leaning publication. This is freaking Axios. U.S. murders on pace for the largest one-year drop on record. That should be breaking news. But of course, we need to talk about Donald Trump probably kind of feels like he was in somehow relation with Jeffrey Epstein, and that's what we should talk about. Stop it. You crybabies on the left. The U.S. is on pace for the largest one-year drop in murders the nation has ever recorded. This is according to analysis by the crime stats expert Jeff Asher. Now, the decline in killings is part of a broader decrease in violent crime following COVID. Mass killings in the U.S. also fell in 2025, reaching their lowest level since 2006. Oh, I don't know. So you have law and order. You have police officers who are able to arrest, right? And then you have the slow drip of justice actually happening. Or lo and behold, maybe we're deporting a lot of the goons who broke into this country under Joe Biden's auto pen and have been wreaking havoc ever since. You get on the plane. Goodbye. See you later. Feliz Navidad. The Real-Time Crime Index, which compiles data from 570 law enforcement agencies, shows a nearly 20% decline in murders this year compared with the... Do you have any... In 1 year, a 20% drop in murders. See, these sorts of statistics are going to keep coming out rapid fire, and there is nowhere for the Democrat Party to go. There is nowhere for the media to go. Jeffrey Epstein, come on, no, please keep talking about Jeffrey Epstein. No, we're going to talk about this because this is good for all of us. This is good for America. The database does not consider manslaughter, self-defense, negligence, or accidental killings in these statistics. But the database's statistics are currently available through October, and this is what it says. Motor vehicle thefts, down 23%. Thank you. Murder, down 19.8%. Robbery, down 18.3%. Burglary, down 15%. Property crime, down 12%. Violent crime, 10%. Violent crime, I want to remind you, in my city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, we were told about 2 years ago that, sorry, we don't have enough cops. There's not enough. We have no resources. So if anything happens at your house between 3 and 7 in the morning, don't even bother calling 911 because we're not coming. Really? Violent crime. When somebody breaks in your house and ties you up, maybe tortures you and kills you, that would be a violent crime. Down 10% in 1 year. I freaking voted for that. Think about the desperation out there, the depravity of the people you're going to hear in the news today, squawking about this or that, the monster, the oligarch, the tyrant, the authoritarian, the fascist, Nazi, misogynist Donald Trump. They don't even say racist anymore. That's so last year. We've moved on to bigger and better things. No. See, what we're doing is we're cleaning up the mess that Democrats created, that Republicans allowed to happen. And this is the result. So there aren't any more Jocelyn Nungarys or Laken Rileys or any of these women. So what happened? This is progress. We're not used to progress. We're used to stagnation, excuses, fraud, abuse, belittling, finger wagging, demands, emergency orders. This is big news. The story that you're going to hear today from your media is that there's really only one thing left to gasp about. And it is the story that years ago Donald Trump said, you guys got to put on the back burner. No good comes from this. All things Epstein. He said, nothing good will come from this. People will be wrongly accused. Innocent people will be forever tarnished. And the real offenders are actually untouchable. There you go. When we come back, the Somalian fraud in Minnesota on steroids. The COVID era stuff, all of the welfare programs, tip of the iceberg. What do I mean? Don't go anywhere. I got it for you next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network. I could not come up with Rob Reiner's name.
Okay, let's go ahead and move this on up here. We're about the 36-minute mark. And, you know, she's probably right on this. The real criminals are untouchable. And Donald Trump knows this because he's right in the middle of all the legal stuff and political stuff that's going on. So, you know, he could probably say something about it, maybe name some names, but what good would it do? Other than, you know, the media would come down on him and he would lose popularity and possibly lose the 2026, you know, as far as Congress is concerned. So maybe after 2026, when, you know, he's in his last 2 years, some more information could come out on this, but I wouldn't put out it. I mean, he said they're untouchable, so chances are they probably
we got
are.
some new followers.
I'm still a
There we go. We'll wrap it up with this last segment.
Welcome back to the Wendy Bell radio program. You know, it's interesting. It has taken Minneapolis. It's taken the saga of Somalian-based fraud. It's not certainly the only fraud going on in Minnesota, but it's a giant lion's share. It took such egregious, outlandish abuse of that slush fund that you and I called out from the beginning. When they're like $3.5 trillion during COVID, what could go wrong? And we're like, what could possibly go right? Who's going to oversee the dispersal of funds? Like, what board assesses who gets what kind of money? This is grift central. And the way they were able to print it out so fast, you know, they've been working on this for a while. So anyway, we have got Minnesota. Minnesota is a complete debacle. We've got $250 million that we know of stolen from the Feeding Our Futures garbage. We're going to give food to all sorts of needy people, all these kids who don't exist, who were given non-existent meals from storefronts that could have nowhere even possible created any kind of help for the people of Minnesota. And it's been allowed to go on and on and on. Well, how about this? Minnesota mayors are saying their constituents are scared as the fraud crisis leaves questions unanswered. So we're hearing more and more from these mayors, small town mayors all across Minnesota, who've gotten together to write this letter to Tim Walz, basically saying, you are a governor of suck. We know this, but your complicit, complacent, or I don't know, co-optive role in all of this is costing us. And it's costing us a ton. And we don't know how you're going to freaking dig us out, Tim Walz. I'll fix it. Just let me get elected again. I'll get elected again and I'll fix it. I swear I promise. Really. Okay. Cross Lake Mayor Jackson Perfeast, somebody's name, leads letter citing unchecked spending and inconsistent fiscal management. That's watering it down to the most ridiculous degree. Two of the nearly 100 Minnesota mayors demanding answers about the state's unfolding fraud crisis. And it is just beginning to unfold. Described a climate of relentless uncertainty that has left some constituents scared about what lies ahead. My community is reaching out to me because they're not getting any answers from DHS, from other legislators, and they're scared. There is so much unknown, says St. Paul Mayor Jimmy Francis. As a mayor on the front line, we try to help them, but what do we say? So far, that help has involved putting concerned constituents basically in contact with county officials to find answers they seek. Do you know that they've added up the fraud so far that we know of in Minneapolis? And right now it's the equivalent of $1,500 per Minnesotan. It's huge. Who pays it off? Well, before we worry about that, right? The house is flooded. Let's not bail out the water until we shut off the water main. Well, we need to go back out because we haven't hit them all. You guys ready? I want you to hear this. A woman is standing outside. I don't know. She could be a journalist. She doesn't identify herself. There's no identifiers on the video. But she's standing outside, pretty woman. And she's in a neighborhood that looks pretty nice. And she's like, you know what? I got a story about these neighbors of mine in this housing development behind me. Beautiful homes. She's like, look, Somalis aren't just grifting off of COVID welfare, SNAP stuff, food stuff. They're also buying homes, pretending that they are personal care homes in which they're going to bring people in the community and tend to them. We're going to tend to them. Did you know that nobody's ever checked those homes? That, in fact, Minnesota law precludes anybody from going up and knocking on the door and being like, hey, I see that you've been getting some grant money to help take care of neighbors in need. We'd like to know who they are. Not allowed to do that. Excuse me. Listen to this.
Here in Minnesota, a local realtor reached out to me to tell me about another way that Somalians are scamming Minnesotans out of their taxpayer dollars. In her community alone, Somalians have bought up over 455 homes. They buy these homes, claiming they're turning these homes into home health care centers. She says the way we know Somalians have bought these homes is because all of a sudden, extremely nice cars start showing up. Mercedes, BMWs, the nicest cars are parked in the driveway. And she said, by law, the state will not come out and inspect these homes and make sure these homes even have clients living in these homes. She also said, as a realtor, she cannot disclose to people wanting to buy homes in this neighborhood that Somalians have bought that home and they're using that as a home health care center. She said these homes can even take people in who've just been released from jail, and the neighborhood does not need to know about this. But she says many of these homes do not even have clients in them. But the state is writing them checks every month for the clients that the Somalians say are in these homes. And these Somalians are making millions of dollars off of these homes every year. The Somalians have figured out exactly the perfect plan as to how to scam Minnesota taxpayers out of their money. They're banking on this, making millions of dollars. And the government here in Minnesota is too lazy to go and check it out.
You know what? I go from feeling stupid to just being pissed. I'm angry. And that Tim Walz is known since he started, 2019 when he became Minnesota's governor. They've been warning him. This is what's going on, Mr. Governor. This is what's happening. We have proof of this. Crickets. And that's not all. Then you have the Somalians who say that they're childhood learning centers or autism clinics or the like. Well, now, if you're going to have a childhood learning center, do you think the building that you have should have windows? And do you think maybe the word learning on the sign outside should be spelled correctly? I don't know. Here's independent journalist Nick Shirley.
Here in Minnesota, massive fraud is taking place within the government and the Somali population. Here, this building alone, Quality Learning Center, is a daycare, yet they spelled learning wrong and they said leering. This daycare alone in 2025 has received $1.9 million from the government. And the strange things about these childcare centers is there's no one here right now. It's midday on a weekday. If you were to try to go inside, it's completely closed and the windows are all blacked out. No one's working. Midday, children should be in here, and this place is licensed for 99 children, and this is the outside. There's no windows, no nothing. And like I said, they literally spelled the word wrong on their sign. This is open and blatant fraud taking place here inside of Minnesota. The government is complicit with this, and this is just one of the hundreds of child daycare centers here inside of Minneapolis being ran by the Somali population. It's sad that it's happening here in Minnesota, and it stinks that it's happening and it's being labeled on the Somali population. However, that's just the facts of what's happening here inside of Minnesota. $1.9 million for this daycare center that can't even spell learning right.
It's spelled all L-E-A-R-I-N-G. Leering. That's what they do. And nobody thought that maybe, just maybe, this isn't a great place for children to go. If you can't spell learning, why are we putting kids there? Well, they never were, and nobody cared to check. This is how we have 450,000 missing children from all around the world who Joe Biden's auto pen welcomed into our country. This is how you lose 500,000 children from the world. You just don't care. You don't look for them. You don't even try. Is that disgusting? Well, it gets worse. Here is the mayor from Babbitt, Minnesota. This is one of the 100 who wrote this letter to Tim Walz, basically saying, you suck. You're putting us on the hook. Our people are scared. You're inept. It has to end. And she said, you know what? How about all of the victims? All of the victims, Governor Walz, because of you. Listen.
Well, I don't understand what difference that makes to anyone else. How would anyone else be approached or confronted if they stole money from someone? They would all be acknowledged and have to go forward with the consequences of their actions. You know, we're sitting here bearing the brunt of everything: tax hikes, gas taxes, property taxes, boating taxes, gas taxes. We can't go anywhere. We can't go fishing. And he's afraid to offend someone. Well, what about me? I know my town, we're all offended that we're paying for all of this fraud to go on. And it's just coming out now when they've known about it for years. What's going to happen now? And let's just call it what it is. It's stealing. It's not, It's stealing. You're stealing from the state of Minnesota. You're stealing from the taxpayers that make this state the great state that it is. And how are we going to recoup from that?
Andrea Zupancic, who is the mayor of Babbitt, Minnesota. You know, the outrageous degree of fraud. $9 billion at a minimum we know of from the U.S. attorney there. $9 billion. Take that, and you have 5.79 million Minnesotans. That is where you get your roughly $1,500 per person from each hardworking Minnesota that has been stolen. And what you have is a governor who says, this is on my watch. I am accountable for this. And more importantly, I'm the one who will fix this. In Tim Walz, who has the audacity to run for a third term. Does that make you sick? I want to take a Democrat who's like, anybody but Trump. I'll vote for anybody who's not Trump. You'll vote for somebody who you know has been thieving from sick kids, hungry kids, adults who need help. They've engaged in money laundering back to their home countries and back to the Democratic Party. We know that demonstrably. Mortgage fraud. How deep does it have to go? Well, here's the good news, if there actually is any. It's obviously not just Minnesota. We've got a story about California because other states are waking up, including Maine. California is in the crosshairs. I want to read this to you quickly. Maine suspends payments to Somali charity after $1 million in fraud is uncovered by audits. Do I need to give you any more details, or can we all get with the same program here and say the Somalians got to go? That's really very terrible, Wendy. Not all of them are bad. Well, you know what? Enough of them are. And I think I speak for an angry America. We're done paying for the grift. We're done for the lazy Democrats pretending to do something about it while getting rich off of it. How about you? So how bad is California? Well, it's crooked. State auditor drops a report. Whew. You know, Minnesota, you look like child's play now, babe. Wait till you hear these numbers next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up from here, but this video will be in my daily news wrap-up playlist. Okay, let me remind you before we cut off here that these videos I'm sharing with you are videos that come directly from the producers. I have the links to the videos as well as the links to the producer's channel in my description box. I don't get any commissions or royalties for sharing this information out. I do it so that I can spread the truth to you people, and in hopes that you will share this with others so that they will be in the know as to what's going on right behind their backs, right underneath their noses, in fact. Okay, let me give a shout out here to Dalon7788, just started following my channel. Island Girl 17 just started following my channel. Awaken West Michigan just started following my channel. Fleet just started following my channel. And Beverly Katz just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you tuned in this evening, and I hope you enjoyed the content. All right, Real News DFW commented on my episode 1787. Marley 33, Cottonball 31 commented on my episode 1787. And Allen 17 Allen commented on my episode 1787. So all those comments there on 1787, I greatly appreciate it. I also copied in the live chats. Boom, there we go. Got all those a thumbs up. Let's jump over here and take a look at... Let's come over here and take a look at my Daily News Wrap-Up playlist. Okay, so here here's the Wendy Bell video that you were just listening to. I'm going to start that up where I left off. The Mel K Show, McWater's Effect, news with Lucretia Hughes, more McWater's effect, official Joe Van Houten Pulitzer, Dinesh D'Souza. I've got a lot of great information in here for you folks. I'm going to be back just as quick as I can, just a few minutes. If you do take a break, make it a short one. Quick donut, cup of coffee, sandwich, and a soft drink or beer. But make it quick because I plan on being back here in a hurry since I'm running so late. In the meantime, I do want to thank you for being with me. Hopefully, I'll get to see you here in just a few minutes. Thank you again, and may God bless.